Now, in my last minute here, I got to bring up another issue here. And you know, people want to talk about me, they can go and talk about me, I don't care, but some of the comments I can't really ignore. You know, because I guess someone was saying that I do something called mutta, which is can be used as a form of prostitution. Okay, and I believe Nabeel Qureshi, Nabeel, you there?
Yeah.
You know, from what I heard from your parents and from a couple of witnesses here, that you made some comments about me doing these things, and I believe I called you up and I asked you if you said that. You said no, you didn't, but
I didn't even know what mutta was.
But your parents are saying yes. Why did your parents say yes and you're saying no?
I think these kinds of things got to stay in like your living room or something like that.
Okay,
We'll
but
talk about this.
I guess what I'm wondering is, why are your parents saying you said this about me and I got another
Some
witness?
respect for the audience, sir.
Well, I mean, if people are going to say these things, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, what's going on here? Are they wrong?
Show some
So,
respect for the audience.
all right.
Let's
Look,
get
I was just trying to get down to the bottom of this because a lot of nasty rumors are getting around, and this comes back and it hurts me, all right? So, you know, I want to find out what's going on here. So, okay.
All right, well, that was conclusion to the debate. Can we trust what the New Testament tells us about Jesus and the gospel? And since you were tossing out the challenges, Nadir, well, I think it's interesting that you're saying that Christians are running from you when you're on stage with a Christian debating. But apart from that, Sam Shamoon has agreed to debate you on the prophethood of Muhammad, and if you'd like to focus on archaeological and prophetic and scientific evidence, I would accept too. We can do it right here. So at this point, we'll field question and answer from the audience. So if anyone would like to form a line, you don't all have to jump in line at once. There'll be time. If anyone does have to leave, this would be a good time. If you have to go to sleep at a certain hour or something like that, this would be a good time to step out. For those of you who want to continue the discussion and have a question and answer, now's the time for that. Yeah, if it goes until yeah, I'll start my time. All right, remember, no speeches. You can have a few seconds to set up your question and so on, but ask the question. Also point out to which debater your question's for, or if it's for both of them. And if it is directed towards one debater, I'll give that debater 2 minutes to answer and 30 seconds to a minute if the opponent would like to respond. All right, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, but I would request you humbly, please do not interrupt me. I'm not going to make a long speech.
You were my professor once, a long time ago. So you are the only exception. You are the one exception.
Thank you very much.
But you're getting. I have to limit you to 2 minutes, though. Can you do it in 2 minutes? All right.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Certainly, I will take 2 minutes. First of all, my overall impression of the debate. I listened to both speakers very carefully, and I probably will leave with the impression that your name is Mr. Doctor.
Can everyone hear this microphone? Is this turned on? No. Okay. Is that turned on?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Just a little closer.
I think Dr. Wright was very articulate. He was very polite. He was very respectful. On the other hand, my fellow Muslim brother, Mr. Nadir Ahmed, was very rhetorical, very impertinent at some times, and not very respectful, both to the audience as well as to the speaker. My compliment, Dr. Wright. I think most of the time, Mr. Ahmed was asking, give me a single evidence for the prophethood of Paul. I think Dr. White would have turned back and asked him the same question. Give me an empirical, scientifically verifiable evidence for the prophethood of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and both claims stand and fall on the same theological assumptions. My feeling is, recently I read a piece by Chris Hedges, who had a debate with Sam Harris on so-called the God problem. And he wrote, Chris Hedges wrote after the debate, that those who came to the debate liking Sam Harris left the debate liking Sam Harris. I think this probably would happen tonight. As a Muslim, I believe in the New Testament, in the Old Testament, in the authenticity of these, and I consider my Christian brothers as fellow believers. I think that no one can ever present any scientific evidence, ever, for topics such as these. If you are debating about the rationality of one healthcare plan against the other, I would have said he won, he lost. But both of you have won the debate because you presented your case. But I appreciate what people like you are doing. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll have 1 minute response from, if you have anything to say about that.
Yes, I do. Hopefully we're on here. I attempted to raise that issue by saying, what is the standard? A call to apostleship is a theological issue. It's not something you put under a microscope. And yet, for both Muslims and Christians, we believe that God has spoken, that he speaks in the form of Scripture. And therefore, to go to those Scriptures and to demonstrate that within those Scriptures we have historical evidence that Paul is accepted as an apostle by the other apostles, I think is quite relevant. I didn't have time this evening to go into the fact that there are early interpretations of, I believe, Surah 36, if I recall correctly, where early Muslims saw in the Qur'an a reference to the Apostle Paul. That could not have developed, that's found in Ibn Kathir, that could not have developed had there been this rapacious rejection of him as some sort of innovator and creator of shirk. And so I did try to raise that issue that you cannot provide a computer evidence for the apostleship of Paul because it's a different area.
Nadir, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I already told you, for a lot of people, challenging people for the evidence for their religion, a lot of people will take that as offensive, very offensive. This isn't, I'm not here to make friends over here, all right? But we have to get to the truth. It's like what David Wood was saying. Let's get to the truth of the matter is. Okay, as far as Christians being fellow believers, as a person who claims to be a Muslim, even James White will agree with me. No, they're not. And not according to the Qur'an. And according to the Qur'an, there's no salvation for them. Okay, they are not fellow believers. But anyways, I've been, I think, very courteous with James over here. I gave him an additional 13 minutes because I know this is going to be tough for him, as well as for the Baha'is and other people who claim to have followed Prophet. Now, he's saying that we can't prove Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The problem is you've never been to my website. We have several debates proving Prophet Muhammad, and as for his challenge, Sam Shimon ran away as well. Okay, so, and if, my time's up.
All right, I hear that you've all been, everyone who wanted to ask a question has been given a number. So we'll start with number 1. Absolutely no more speeches unless one of you is my professor.
Okay, good evening. My question is, since the topic is how can we trust the New Testament, my question is how can we trust the New Testament if, for example, in many modern Bibles, the Revised Standard Version, etc., for example, they tell us that verses, for example, like in Mark chapter 16, there are verses that were added in later. Where did they come from? If the earliest manuscript, they tell us, did not contain those verses, is that not proof of tampering? John chapter 7, verse 53 to John 8:11, they say earliest manuscripts did not have that. Obviously, where did those, if the earliest manuscripts did not contain that, then where did those come from? Isn't that proof, therefore, that people have been tampering with the scriptures over time? And who knows what new evidence may come out later to show that other things have been tampered. Therefore, how can we trust the New Testament?
All right, that's a great question. So 2 minutes for James and 1 minute for Nadir.
I had hoped that this would be what we were debating this evening because I would love to give a 20-minute presentation. I'd love to give much more than a 20-minute presentation. If I may recommend a book that I've written that has nothing to do with Islam to you, so it might be useful to you at least, and you might be able to say, well, certainly not directed my direction. I wrote a book in 1994 called The King James Only Controversy, and it deals with where we got the New Testament manuscripts and what the differences in them are. I'm holding a critical edition of the Bible here, Greek New Testament, Hebrew Old Testament. At the bottom of the page, you have all the references to the various manuscripts and where they have variant readings. You mentioned the 2 largest variant readings in the New Testament, Mark 16:9-20 and John 7:53-8:11. When we examine that wealth of information that we have, we are able to detect scribal errors. I was going to show you, for example, a manuscript, actually Codex Sinaiticus, which you may have heard of before, around 325 AD, where in John 14 you can see parakletos in John chapter 14, verse 26. And there's a textual variant right underneath it. You can see the handwritten correction made in it. Now, if that was the only manuscript we had of that text, then that would be a problem. But it isn't. We have manuscripts from all over the world. The Christians distributed their manuscripts rapidly everywhere. And when we can compare them with one another, we can see where someone has made a scribal error here, or in the situation with the longer ending of Mark, the earliest manuscripts do not contain that. And people, later scribes, felt we need to add something here because the other Gospels have something.